Hey there guys, welcome back to another video. So tonight I'm going to show you how to MS43 swap your MS42 E46. I'm going to show you what you're going to need, how to do it, and some problems you may face during the conversion. So without further ado, let's begin discussing. Okay, and here is what you're going to need to perform the MS43 conversion. Obviously the first thing being the MS43 DME itself. As you can see, it clearly states right there, MS43. Preferably one from an earlier MS43 model, this one being from an 01. That number right there above my pinky, that is the year on these DMEs. So this is from an 01. I suppose it's easier from what I read to just source a earlier MS43 for the conversion. You're also going to need the throttle body, which is compatible with MS43, MS45. This so happens to be a 330 E46 throttle body, used on other models and stuff like that. You have a lot of throttle body options, which we'll discuss later. You also want the harness for the throttle body. Now, what I did here, you don't have to do this unless you really want to. I traced the harness from the throttle body the whole way to the ECU, which required dissecting an engine harness and everything. I did things the hard way to make it easier for you guys, so I can see what pins go to where. I'm going to show you how to depin the connectors, all that stuff. I also want to get you guys the proper color codes for your splicing. Next thing we're going to need is the throttle pedal from an MS43, MS45 car, because they have the same connector. This one's from an automatic. It has the haptic feedback switch. We're going to simply make this work for a manual car. If you're manual, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's very simple. We simply remove that clicker in there. It's pretty cool to look at. Anyway, this is the bracket for the throttle pedal. Also going to be required to make this mount to your car, obviously. And then also get the bolt if you can. These can be a pain to extract, so be patient, gentle with them, because these will snap off the mount on the body. It also can be a pain to slide this off, but I'll show you how to do that. Then you also want the harness for this. Once again, you do not have to do it this way. This is actually a very long harness. We don't need this much wiring, but you want to get the plug from the throttle pedal itself, which goes there. You also want to get some of the harness from the DME. On the E46, this traces into the main body harness. Absolute pain in the ass unless you pull the dash and everything. So once again, I did this the hard way so you don't have to. I want to get you guys all the color codes and everything. So this video, I'm looking to make this super simple for you because nobody else really covers this in-depth swap. Before we continue onward with this video, I want to say one quick thing. My method of doing this is by recycling your original MS42 engine harness. People like to get themselves an MS43 engine harness and like to do the swap that way and think it's easier. It actually is not. By recycling your MS42 engine harness, it is much, much simpler. I'm going to show you just how to do that, so just bear with me. But once again, my method of doing this is by retaining your stock 323, 328, and 320, I think, engine harness. So let's continue on with the video. Okay, so before we go ahead and mess with any kind of circuits and do splicing and stuff like that, it's a good idea to go ahead and learn where the DME location is on these cars and how the plugs are laid out. So the location for this engine control module unit is going to be right here in this DME location. MS43 cars, MS45 cars, they will have a Torx style bolt holding down, or this is more of a screw holding down this cover. MS42 should have an Allen type bolt or screw. Now, once those bolts are undone, or screws, depending which version, remove the lid, and that will give you access to your DME location. As you can see, right there it lives. Now, this open slot right here, this one right here, is actually, if your car was an automatic, this would be where the EGS computer is. Example being, here's an automatic parts car. The EGS is blue in color, where the plugs are, right here. And then right above it is a slot for the DME, which I removed, so it's no longer there. Okay, so now that we know where the DME lives, we need to know how these plugs are laid out. They're laid out in numerical order with a funky name beginning with X6001, X6002, 3, 4, 5. It just goes onward. Now this picture is backwards from when you see this in the car. This is what the picture is showing us, like this. Now, with the DME in the car, you're actually going to be looking down on it like this. So they'll be numbered backwards For example, this one right here is X6005, and so on and so forth. Now, to remove these plugs, very simple. These outer ones, being this one and that one, there's a simple little square to depress right here. See, I'm pressing it. You're going to press it and wiggle and pull. Come on, baby. Get those finger muscles working. Jesus. Okay. Now, those are the easy ones. The next style connector we have is this locking clasp. Also very simple. Once again, there's a little square to depress right there. You're going to press that little square tab down, and that in return allows you to swing this locking clasp down. Now, as you're actuating this clasp downward, the connector will begin lifting itself out of the DME, just like that. And then you're going to click it, and that means it's ready to come out, like that. You must remove them from left to right, because if not, the clasps will hit the other corresponding connectors, and you can't release it. So, and then reassembly is obviously opposite from deassembly, from right to left then. So to reassemble, you're going to put this down, and you're going to line it up. It's slotted to line up nice and straight, so you're not bending any pins, although they do bend sometimes. Straight down, and then once again, as you actuate your clasp to reassemble the connector or reinstall it, doing this will simply suck the connector back down to the DME until you click it, like that. That means it's locked in. So that's how that works. Now, as far as depinning, we will not have to do anything with these plugs unless you're doing something crazy. We're going to be mainly working on these plugs here for this conversion. Very easy to depin. Everything is numbered inside. I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to be focusing on mainly these two plugs right here. X6004, which in our case, once again, the picture is flipped, remember, it's going to be this one. And then the other main one is going to be X6003, has the most pins. 52, I believe, yeah, 52 pin. That one is always in the middle no matter what. This is the biggest connector right here. So X6004 is going to be where we add our pins for the throttle pedal. X6003 is going to be where we add our pins for the throttle body or splice them. There's also some pins we have to splice together between these two connectors to make cluster functions work, because that's a common issue with guys who do this swap. They can't figure out how to make their cluster work. They lose oil pressure function, they lose oil level sensor function, and alternator light, battery charging light, because BMW changed some things with the wiring. I'll show you how to make it work on MS42. Very simple. Now let's move on to depinning these connectors. Here's one with all the wires in it. This is X6003, the 52 pin one. As you can see, it's the one with the most wires in it. Now, to get access to the wires, we go to the back side of this connector, and we're going to look real close. Now, you see there's two different color of bars in here. To the right is like a light gray, almost a white bar. To the left is a black bar. They simply slide out of there to get us access to the pins. There's these little tabs on either side, right here and right here. You're going to simply sling those to the right or left. Okay, now with our connector and the vise, because I only have two hands, as I'm human, I can't do it all at once. We're going to go ahead and show you how to remove these bars out of here. This one's ready to come out, but how to get to this point, as I mentioned earlier, you need to get these gates to open up using a pick tool or a small flat screwdriver. See that? Oh shoot, I skipped off of it. Bam, that's open, that's shut. Move my finger out of the way so you can see better. Open, shut. So you're going to open it, hold it open, and slide the bar out. Just like that. My pick tool fell, but it's okay. Gotta make sacrifices sometimes. Then these slide straight out like that, okay? We're going to go back to the gray side. Grab it, slide it. Come on, focus on that. Out, just like that. Now, do not be afraid to go ahead and just remove these both, because BMW engineered these connectors to be directional. They're keyed a specific way. You physically cannot mix them up. It will not let you. You also cannot put them in backwards. It just binds up. So you have to put them in back one direction only, the way they want to go. You can't mix them up. So now as far as pulling these back out and depinning, I'll show you how to also depin these. Do I even need my pick tool? I probably do. Bam. No, I don't, baby. Let's go. Okay, so anyway. Now, how to remove... Oh, also, nice quick thing it did for you. They also went ahead and they numbered these connectors for you. See the numbers on there? This black one starts at 27, goes all the way up to 39. Flip it around. You'll see the other side of this connector, 40 through 52. And then what's nice is this little arrow right here not only indicates direction of which it goes back in the connector, it also is also the direction you'll be counting. So double, triple check your counting as you're counting pins. As long as you can count and keep your sense of direction, it'll be okay. Now, as far as depinning these, you see the pins themselves have like a triangle shape on every single pin. Okay, so now with my pick tool back in my hand here, you're going to simply depress on these triangles here, and that'll allow you to pull the wires out. So let me grab a wire that I'm going to attack. It happens to be pin, looks like 41, 39, 40, 41. Okay, so you're just going to press on the triangle and pull the wire out. Sometimes it catches in the second window right here. That's okay. You just go back in, press it additionally, and this will come right out like that. That's how you depin these connectors. As far as repinning, you simply slide them right back in, and they will click into position like that. And they're locked in. You cannot get it back out. So yeah, that's how you depin and repin these connectors. Very simple. Once again, they're numbered for you. It's foolproof. Very easy electronic system here. Okay, it is now time to actually begin doing the conversion. Okay, so the most simple thing to start with is people complaining about losing their cluster functionality. The actual mechanical gauges still work. However, they have issues with the alternator battery charging light, the oil pressure light, and the oil level sensor light, and sometimes a start signal associated with the cluster. So we need to study the pinouts between MS42 and MS43. We're going to look at the pinout of X6003, which once again is the biggest plug right in the middle of the DME for both. We're going to study the pinouts. Now, the ones with the black dots next to them are going to be those cluster functions. We'll start with the oil pressure signal. This is the input of pin 26 on, once again, X6003. Pin 26 is the oil pressure light, which is, once again, people can't figure out how to make it work. So we need to figure out why or what they changed between these two DMEs to keep that communication going. It's simple. On MS42, your plug going to the oil pressure sensor leaves the sensor. It then goes to the DME on this plug. It is then processed by the DME, and then it is put to this plug as an output, and then it goes to your cluster. So, like I showed you, the input for the oil pressure is pin 26. We then need to find the output, which is right here. It is pin 11 on X6004. So, once again, the DME is a middleman. Sensor input, processing, sensor output, it then goes to your gauge cluster in the interior. Now, jump to MS43. Once again, let's remember, what was it? Pin 26 for the pressure. Let's look at MS43, same connector, same pin. It's missing. It's empty. What the heck? So what does that mean? We will then look at the output, which was, once again, pin 11 on X6004. Go to MS43, pin 11. It is, once again, non-existent. It is simply open, nothing there. So, simply put, BMW got rid of the DME as the middleman. They simply go straight from the sensor directly to the cluster, bypassing the DME as a whole. Straight shot. That is why people who swapped MS43 without knowing that, they cannot get those lights to work. So how do you do it? What do they do? Like I said, a straight shot. We're simply going to take these corresponding pins, splice them directly together to make that connection to update it to the MS43 wiring. And that will make your cluster functions all work. So I'm going to put up a diagram right now. Bam. This is the pins you need to splice directly together. Simply by doing the method I showed you earlier, how to depin these connectors, going to the specific number, on each connector. You're going to remove these connectors and splice them together. Just go back a few seconds and screenshot that so you have that diagram. Okay, and here we are. We've just finished up doing the instrument cluster splices to ensure that the instrument cluster works properly during this MS43 swap. So, simply by following the guide that I've just supplied you earlier, we're simply going to take pins from X6003 and X6004 and simply splice them straight together. Okay, so something very interesting is 3 out of 4 of these splices are actually already color matched from factory. It's like they're meant to be spliced together anyway, so that was pretty cool to find out. First splice being pin number 13 of X6003 and pin 1 of X6004. They are both blue. Straight splice, done. Splice number 2 is going to be pin number 12 of X6003 and pin 2 of X6004. They are both black with a green stripe on them. Splice together, straight, done, boom. Okay, splice number 3 is going to be pin number 26 of X6003 and pin 11 of X6004. They are both brown and green. Kind of resembles a caramel apple candy, if you will. I don't know. Now, splice number 4 is not color matched, but that's okay because the pins are correct after double, triple checking myself. Pin number 39 of X6003 and pin 21 of X6004 spliced together. X6003 color being gray and brown, and X6004 color being green and white. So that is going to complete the instrument cluster functionality. We now have a proper working oil level gauge, oil pressure light. They're the same light, they just light up different colors depending on the fault. And we also have the alternator charging working properly. Now we also have a starter signal from the cluster. And now it's time to remove the MS42 throttle pedal down there. But first you must remove this cover. Obviously that shields the pedals and it just finishes the dash, make it appear nice. Anyway, to remove it, you have these fasteners. You have your typical plastic push rivet style thing. As you guys know how these work. Right here, you have to get the center to come out first. And then you pull it out. That goes there. Then you have 3 Phillips screws. You have one here, right there, and then right here. So 3 Phillips screws. And then you have another plastic retainer right here that needs twisted, and see how it's slotted like that? It's like an oval. That's how this is shaped too, to release. Once you align it with the oval, it just pulls right out like that. And then that gets you that whole piece out of there. Now I gotta get the throttle pedal off. Okay, so the first order of business is to release the bottom of the pedal from the mount on the body. I already have this all disassembled. I just quickly threw it back together so I can show you how to do this. There's a latch on the back of this, but that's your first step. I'll show you how that works once I get it off. You separate from the body like that. You'll then come up to here to this shaft. It then runs this way through the top of the pedal. There's a little nub or finger on it down here, and there's a notch on the back of the pedal. So you're going to grab and rotate it until the notch lines up. I don't think it's quite that far forward, but there, okay. Once you get the notch lined up, the pedal will drop off like that. Here's the notch. See the notch right there? Okay. Now the bottom, the base, how it works is you have this little, let me flip this thing around. You have this little swing gate type deal. That's the open position right there. Then it slaps shut and it clicks. And then once you get the actual pedal off, you're going to go back in here. You're going to come to the shaft again, or this leg. It runs through this bracket here, and there's this trigger or tab right here. You're going to press it. See how it moves. You're going to press it down, get the first bushing out. There's a bushing right here. It's inside of there like that. And because you have to then remove these nuts. They're already off. One here, one on this side right here, and there's one. Where's it at? It's right behind the steering shaft. You can see it up in there. Oh, let me get my other arm in here. Jeez. Right there, up there is where the third. All right, composure, relax. This is where the third nut goes right here. You loosen all three of those, and you have to slide this whole bracket. I'm stuck in the seat. I'm stuck in this. Okay, there. Once you remove all three of those nuts, you can then slide this whole bracket out, because the whole issue is once you try to remove this lever from this, it's going to smack off this body harness holder. So releasing this big mount and sliding it out gives you enough room to then push out this freaking lever. Then it slides out like that. There's the other piece of the pedal. You're also going to have your throttle cable, obviously right here. And then a spring connects to... Actually, wait. Yeah, throttle cable goes to the top of this. And you have a spring right here. The spring connects to this. It runs into a bushing, which at this day and age is like clinging to life barely. It's all broken up. Pop out your spring. Right here's the spring for the throttle cable. The bushing is gone. It's just a bunch of small pieces like that. So yeah, it's just deteriorated. And then you can either put this back into position, actually leave it out, because now you have to tackle the freaking throttle cable, which is also a lot more fun. It's... Okay, there's a hole in the body. Okay, there's the hole for the throttle cable. You see it? Yeah. It's right in... Okay, the shadow of my finger. Right there. There's a square hole in the body. That's where the throttle cable runs through. I'll show you what it looks like on the back side. And here is the throttle cable. This simply snaps into the body, into that square channel there. Has two little fingers which retain it into the body. You have to depress these fingers and push it through the body. And then there will be like a grommet about right here somewhere. And then it runs through the body through here. That hole right there. I took the grommet, I put an OEM screw, rivet, fastener through the hole to seal it, and then a bunch of RTV in the backside just to seal it up. It's going to do the job just fine, I feel. So that'll go back in. And then to get a shot of where the throttle cable comes through, you'll remove your cabin air filter tray, obviously, and remove this firewall cover. Right? See, there it is. There's a square hole. There it is. You can kind of see it. That square hole is where it runs through the body into your, right to the pedal. This is the hardest part of the ECU swap. If removing a throttle pedal is the hardest part of the ECU swap, we should not be complaining. So that was the hardest part done. Now we're going to quickly vacuum out this and install our MS43 pedal. And also, I forgot about this thing too. There's a little stopper here. You have to thread out of the body. It has like a million freaking threads, so it takes forever. Trying to speed, but there we go. This will then be used to mount the bracket for your MS43 pedal. Okay, and here is our MS43/MS45 throttle pedal, the same pedal. Like I said before, this is an automatic. It has the haptic switch in here, haptic feedback switch. It's a simple clicker inside of here. All you have to do is remove these screws and pop this cover off and pull it straight out. That clicker actually has no wires or anything going to it. It's kind of neat. So what you need to tear this apart is you need a 5-point Torx. Not the typical 6-point. You need a 5-point security Torx. I bought these on Amazon months ago for the sole purpose of these freaking pedals. No other reason to have these at my shop anyway. But In my case, it's the smallest size. We're going to use our little micro ratchet. I love this thing. But anyway, I'm going to get these screws taken out, and then I'll show you that clicker. With all these screws removed, we now simply just take off this cover, and we will see the internal workings of this throttle pedal assembly. You have some cool long springs down here. These little cables are up to this rotating assembly. That clicker is right here. Now watch. As you depress the pedal, that cam rotates, and it's going to click that clicker in the back there, like that. All you gotta do is slide that out, like that. That's it. There's no wires or anything. It's just a... Oh, it's actually really hard to push with your fingers. It's just a clicker. That's all it is. Isn't that crazy how that works? No wires, but it's a kickdown switch. Kind of nutty. Anyway, that's how you convert this to a manual transmission. This is how you convert this to work for a manual. We are now ready to install our throttle pedal bracket for the pedal. Very simple compared to the MS42 setup. The bottom of this is going to snap into that. I'm going to put it in there, line it up, press it down, bam, just like that. And then this hole up here, you're going to line up with the hole in the body, just like that. And then you're going to put in your Allen bolt, which is a number 6 Allen. There we go. Once it's tight, we can go ahead and grab our throttle pedal now, and it simply slides on. But before you slide it on, you want to route your wiring, you want to plug it in. So let's grab the pedal and let's get the wiring routed. Okay, really quick here, I forgot to mention one thing while removing this big cover. Your OBD plug also runs to it. It's easy to remove by simply sliding back this locking collar, and this will pop right out. There may or may not also be an extra harness for a speaker down here. Some cars have it, some cars don't, so just be prepared to remove that if you have it, in addition to removing the cover. Now, this pedal itself, I like to put a little bit of lubricant on these slides there, the rails for it, because it could be a pain to pull back off of that when the time comes. So put some lubricant on there, you know, something silicone based or whatever, so you're not damaging the plastic over time. But as far as removing these from the junkyard, you're going to have to depress this finger, depress that, and hold it down. It can be a freaking absolute pain in the butt. But you have to hold this tab down and slide off the pedal. Now what they did was, I'm guessing just to mess with you, no, I'm just joking. See how there's 2 steps to those ridges? That's where that finger catches. It catches the first and second step here. The hardest part is getting past this second step, because you have to then keep holding this down while you're halfway off of it. It's annoying, but once you do it once or twice, you get the hang of it pretty quickly. Now, as far as routing the MS43, MS45 harness, very simple. All we're going to do is run it through right there. See where my harness is going in? Right there. Those go straight into the DME box. Works out beautifully. Now, like I said, you don't have to trace this entire harness like I did. You can literally just snip about a foot on each end and just splice it in, you know, either way. I would not advise just cutting the whole connector off at the ECU and taking it home with you. Do not depin anything. Keep the pins in the connectors, because we can simply just swap the pins right over to the MS42 wiring. Super easy. So do not slide this on until you have this plugged in, because once that's on that bracket, you have no access to that plug. So once again, when this is all neatly routed and everything, plug it in and then put your pedal on. I have a lot of wire to wrap up and hide, so we're going to figure that real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I have the harness nicely hidden and routed right to the DME box. You can barely tell it's there. We have it plugged into the throttle pedal here, and then it simply tucks in right next to the plug, and then there's a nice little snap right here for you to tuck your wire into from factory. So, and then I tuck it behind the carpet there. Now we take it, and we're going to just slide it on. Make sure you're flat on top and bottom, and you can just slide it on. there's step one. There's step two. Okay, there we go. That is how you install the MS43 throttle pedal. It's now ready to go. Now we got to go open the engine bay. It doesn't match now. I might have to put on my cover on that one. Anyway, we're going to go to the engine bay now. We're going to add the pins for this and make this functional. Let's do it. Okay, back here in the DME box where we now have our harness from the throttle pedal right here. I kept it pinned and everything, so I can simply swap the pins directly over to X6004. Because on MS42, all of these pins are simply open and ready to accept. So just going to slide out the great bar if possible with my fingers real quick here. There we go. Okay. Now we're simply just going to take these wires, and look at all these empty spots. We're literally just going to swap them pin by pin into this connector and refasten it back in. Bam, that's how we're going to do that. Super easy. Here's a diagram of the pin numbers and colors. Boom. This is how you're going to do it. So just do them one by one, and you should be good to go. So I'm going to get this done real quick, and then we're going to jump to the throttle body wiring. Be right back. Okay, and here's connector X6004. We have added our throttle pedal pins directly to it. It is ready to go. And then once again, here is our unions for the cluster functions. That is done. Now it's time to work on the throttle body wiring. As you guys remember from the beginning of the video, I traced the harness the whole way from the throttle body through the engine. Usually from factory, you have a big black box. I dissected the whole thing for this build, so I just now have the throttle body wiring separate, running in line with my engine harness, and I just put it into the DME box because I'm going to simply just swap the pins right over to MS42. I'm going to depin every connector associated with the MS42 throttle harness, and then simply just swap in the MS43 pins. If you want to do it that way, here is a pinout color-coded diagram for all 10 MS42 throttle wires. Here it is. I'm going to depin all of these, and I'm just going to swap in the MS43 wires. Okay, there you go. And now, if you're going to be swapping in these, here is the pinout, the pins and colors for that. You're going to literally just swap those right over. Okay, now in doing so, you're going to have 10 dead wires in here, so we're simply just going to cover them up with some heat shrink or something. So it's going to be a dead harness. Now, for you guys who want to retain your MS42 fully stock throttle body wiring, you can literally splice an MS43 plug directly to these wires if you want. If you want to do that, I also have a pinout for you. So this is just a straight color-coded pinout. Now, beware that the numbers on there are numbers for the pins on here too. You can't really see them in this video, but there are numbers on this plug. They are not in the same correspondence with up here, so you do not get that confused. The pinout I'm giving you for this is only for this, and it's also color-coded. So once again, if you're looking to if you cut this and looking just to splice this straight to MS42, here is your pinout. Screenshot that, whatever you want to do. Okay, so once again, this will just be a dead harness in my car because I'm no longer going to use it. I have a separate harness for my throttle body. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and depin this, and I'm going to add in my throttle body pins. Be right back. Alrighty, here are the 10 MS42 throttle body wires that I fully depinned from connector X6003. I've already went ahead and swapped in my MS43 pins directly over using my guide. So now I'm just going to wrap these up and tuck them in the engine bay somewhere. I mean, the DME box somewhere, nice and cleanly. For you guys doing the straight splice down here to this connector, there's going to be 4 extra wires lingering about. Do not be alarmed because on MS43, those wires simply go to nothing. They're just open pins. However, you still want to cover them with some heat shrink or something. So once again, MS43 uses 6 throttle body wires. MS42 uses 10. You're going to have 4 being unused. Do not be alarmed about that. And here we are. We have the throttle body now fully pinned and wired to the X6003 connector. MS43 DME is slid down into its pocket. My fingers are black from handling a fuel tank. Anyway, we now have the MS42 throttle body harness, all 10 wires wrapped nicely together and tightly, just hides down in there. You can kind of see the end down there, just wrapped up nice so nothing gets on it, or nothing will mess with the circuitry. But yeah, we now have done both the throttle pedal and the throttle body wiring, straight pin to MS42 harnessing, plug into an MS43 DME. I went ahead and wrapped everything nice and tightly with some small 1/4-inch zip ties, just so everything's more uniform now, looks clean. Now, a second problem when it comes to doing this conversion, people face issues with getting power to their fuel injector harness. I'm going to show you that this method, so far, that problem is not occurring and is not there. Typically, when that happens is you have to go to the connector known as X6011, which I believe it to be this one right here, where these big thick red wires are. You have to conjoin a pin to the fuel injector harness to get that constant 12-volt source. But I'm going to show you how to test for that source so you're not left, wandering in the dark of why your fuel injectors are not getting power. I'm going to show you how to test that circuit really quick. As far as removing your fuel injector harness right here, it's actually rather simple. Once you remove your cabin air filter tray and your vanity cover, you're then going to attack your intake camshaft Vano solenoid by unplugging it back here with a simple spring clip. Pop it off just like that. You're then going to unplug your intake air temperature sensor, which should be in the middle of your intake manifold down here, but mine's relocated to the intake boot, so that's why that harness looks like that. You're then going to take a flathead screwdriver or a pry bar, stick it between the fuel rail and the injector harness. You're just going to pry back like that. Mine's already popped off. A key note I like to do is, while I'm popping it off like that, I like to brace the bottom of the injector harness with my other hand, hold it up like this, and then pop it off. That yields in a straight shot off of the injector, because it'll naturally, you'll see when you're prying it, it'll want to try to bend down like this, making it rather tight, and it could possibly break your connector. So once again, use the other hand and support the injector harness from the bottom, hold it like this, screwdriver or pry bar in between these two here, and just pry straight up, and this whole thing should pop right off. Now, as far as testing for voltage here, it's rather quite simple. You're going to go in the car, put it to position 2 on the ignition. Don't start the engine, just turn the ignition the whole way on. We're then going to be attacking the pins to the right, the ones to the right, with a test light or a multimeter. I'm going to hook mine up and I'll be right back. Okay, with the ignition to the on position, stage 2, and your simple test light or multimeter tool, you're simply going to check for voltage, like I said, at the right pin on each cylinder for injectors. And it should light up. It should be a constant 12-volt hot with ignition signal on. There's cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll be a little challenging, but I know it's hot because I already checked. But there's cylinder 6 is hot. So, also a side note, you guys know that buzzing sound you hear with the ignition on, that humming sound? Hear that? That is your idle control valve making that sound. Mine is in the wrong spot, obviously, since I no longer have an ICV because I have it blanked off. But you guys always ask what that sound is. It's that dang ICV making that weird humming sound. But yeah, now that you know that your cylinders are hot with 12 volts, your injectors should be good to go. Once again, people who do the MS43 swap but don't have any kind of injector pulse width, you have to go to that connector and figure out what's going on. But so far with that method I showed you how to do the swap as a whole, that is not a problem. We have power at the injectors, everything. So, also I'm going to show you in video 2. This is going to be a 2-part series. I'm going to show you how to actually test the pulse width. That involves going to the opposite pin and actually cranking the engine with having your test light or multimeter hooked up in a certain fashion. It's going to involve actually plugging in an injector, because you have to have a connection in there to make sure it's getting its pulse width. It's going to be like a heartbeat as you're cranking. So once you have verified all your things are good and everything, power-wise, to the injectors, all your splices are done, ignition works and all that, the final test is go ahead and do crank the engine, make sure it cranks. So let's see what we got. Let's see what this couple-hour MS43 swap has given us. Okay. You ready to crank this thing? Sounds good to me. That, my friends, so far is a successful DIY MS43 swap. Now, the car obviously will not actually run right now because I need to get my base map on the car from Vlad to code out the EWS, which is the security system. This DME being from a random car and it's not VIN matched to the actual car itself, the car thinks, oh, hey, yeah, we can't let you run. So we're gonna go ahead and get that mapped out and tuned in. Also, my fuel system is not hooked up, so there's no fuel to the engine at the moment. I need to hook up my test system again. But once we get the base map from Vlad, once again, I'm going to show you guys how to test for pulse width. That's a fun test. I love that one. Then yeah, the car should actually run. Okay, guys, that's going to be it till part 2, where the car's actually running on MS43 swap. Hopefully you guys have learned something during this little mini adventure with me. I've learned a lot for MS43 swaps, and I've retained good information for future people who ask about doing such a thing. But yeah, with a few hours of work, you yourself can actually have your car running on MS43 probably same day if you can DIY tune. I, however, do not mess with tuning. I'll happily do electrical work and stuff like that, wiring, fuel line routing, all kinds of stuff, anything mechanical and electrical. But whenever it comes to actually tuning these cars, that's not up to me. That's not my thing. That's for my buddy Vlad, So we're gonna get this thing hopped up and running. One more thing off the list for this car. That's exciting. So I'm going to head out here. I'm going to get this video worked on and get it out there because this is actually the first in-depth video on YouTube, I think, which I've seen when it comes to MS43 swapping an MS42 car. No special kits, no crazy wire nest or anything, just a very simple, clean MS43 swap that anybody can do. If you were like an early MS42, like a 99, some of your wire colors may be different. However, the pins should all be the same. So do not let possible different wire colors deter you. Just follow the pinouts I'm giving you. This should work. If you do have problems with my method, let me know so I can look deeper into my method and see what I can change possibly. However, I believe this should work on all MS42 E46s and also maybe Z3, Z4, their MS42. However, their DMEs are in the cabin as far as I know, I think. But I think the pinout should be the same. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. This is for E46. But anyway, I'm going to leave here and work on this video, so I'll see you guys later. Have yourselves a good one. I'll see you in part 2.